So you're a gamer, right? That's been keeping up with the PS5 versus Xbox Series console war stuff. And you're probably wondering to yourself, a person that is a neutral, supposedly, or whatever, why has PlayStation 5 been outperforming the Xbox Series X, even though the Xbox Series X is the more powerful console? Well, Digital Foundry has the answer, so let's watch the video.
And, man, this one's going to get clipped by everyone, but let's get...
Of course it's going to get clipped. Of course it's going to get clipped, Richard. Of course it is. Especially for console war purposes. Whether the Sony guys are going to use it, or the Xbox guys are going to use this, it's just all around going to be clipped. It's going to be used to benefit their narrative.
Straight to it. Hello DF guys, exclamation point. I love your weekly videos, exclamation point. I have a question I've been wanting to ask forever, another exclamation point.
Sick.
When the Xbox Series X came out, on paper it clearly had more power than the PlayStation 5, but out of the gate it's been outperformed quite often. To be fair, it's kind of, can go one way or the other, right? Originally, it was said that developers had dev kits early and that gave PlayStation 5 an advantage, but it's been years now and it's still trailing, exclamation point. What's the haps? What's the haps? Surely they should have caught up with how to use the hardware by now. Question mark. Exclamation point. Okay, so yeah, obviously we've been speaking to developers for a while now, because it's a question that we never really had a satisfactory answer to, but I think at this point...
Time to hear the answer.
We do have a satisfactory
Time to hear the answer.
Various sort of theories. There was the development tool theory. There's still the split memory pool. Xbox has a fast memory area and a slow memory area.
Yeah.
But we have spoken to developers now. We do have a bit more insight on what's going on. And I think we've got two specific instances that we could talk about. John, do you want to go?
Come on, John, tell us.
Sure. So one of the
tell us,
that
man.
we've heard referenced multiple times now is the shader compiler. Apparently,
shader compiler.
I forget what it's called, but it's on the PlayStation side. It's just extremely fast and optimized, and it really takes the way it's specific. It gets pretty complex in terms of how it actually, like the wavelets and all that. There's a lot of complex stuff in terms of how it works, but it makes better use, I guess, of the actual silicon in a way that allows for just speedier performance.
Yes.
And that seems to be a huge thing, and obviously Microsoft wouldn't be sleeping on that. They're clearly putting in the work on that, but so is Sony, and developers just seem to prefer Sony's implementation for this. And I guess
so developers prefer PlayStation's implementation of this. That's interesting.
On those same lines then as well,
That's interesting.
The PS5's main API, which I'm forgetting the name. It's not the same.
I always
There's
forget
a
the name
different
of the new one now.
I can't remember
Is
the
it
acronym.
PSIL or something? Or am I thinking the shader language is called PSSL?
I can't remember.
I can't remember.
I can't
either,
remember.
But that also seems to be quite fast, and faster than what Microsoft's doing with DirectX between the Xboxes. Which, of course, I think DirectX, in the way it's built, even though it's a different machine, it's still there's intended to be some commonality there to allow for easier interworkings between a PC and an Xbox.
Yes, 100%.
But it does slightly handicap what the Xbox can do, I would say. And along those lines, though, I had some theories about why some games were still performing better on Xbox in the cases where Xbox did outperform it, and a lot of those titles were multi or cross-generation, and there is a layer that allows you to use the old PS4 style API and sort of translate that to work on PS5.
Okay.
And that seems to be quite a bit slower than the native PS5 API, so I have to wonder if some games that relied on that perhaps basically suffered versus using the native API, which if you're using the native PS5 API, I would imagine that would make it harder to support PS4 maybe, unless you're running two...
I mean, if you're doing hardware specifics, for sure.
Right, so I don't know. That's just some of the details I've heard. If you want to expand on that, Alex, maybe?
Yeah, so...
Tell us, Alex. Tell us the info.
It depends on what the title's doing. So if a title is like Unreal Engine 5 titles, we've seen pretty much always an Xbox Series X advantage in terms
of... So when it comes to Unreal Engine 5, Xbox has the advantage. Interesting information.
The thing is, like,
so when it comes to the PS5 Pro, then whenever it does get announced, or will it get announced this year, so wouldn't that make the PS5 Pro at some point be the definitive way to play not only, you know, the games that we already have now on PlayStation 5, but also future Unreal Engine 5 titles as well? I do wonder about that, since, you know, as of right now, when it comes to Unreal Engine 5, Xbox Series X has the advantage, so...
they use things like dynamic resolution, so the difference.
I'm wondering about that.
It's negligible.
It's really not the way you would, like on PC. I've always said I would never tell you just to run a game at a slightly higher dynamic resolution. I would say bump up settings or something like that. But that's not the way games are optimized for console. So in Unreal Engine 5 games, typically we see better results on Xbox. But the reason for that is because I think there's a difference in like a lopsidedness for both of the platforms here. Xbox Series X has way more compute units at a lower frequency. And in this case here, for Unreal Engine, which in Unreal Engine 5 using software Lumen, almost everything is compute. There's very little actually like straight up rasterization of the traditional sense. Like a lot of triangles are rasterized. You've got shadows which are not done through compute, but most of the lighting is done through compute and things like that. So it pushes everything in the favor of the box that has way more compute than the other box. But in a cross-generation title, for example, which we've also seen a lot of them, or those titles that are built in a way that is not leveraging a lot of compute, which would be probably against the current paradigm of the way game development's running. That'd be a little bit older school. Well, those things on PS5, it has less compute, but the like rasterization units in the hardware are clocked at a higher rate, so they can finish at an earlier time. And you know, obviously that there's a lot of other confounding scenarios here with regards to asynchronous compute, because technically you would imagine a good developer would be leveraging in those moments when the Xbox Series X is slower in the things that are done with traditional rasterization. So like the shadow map pass could be slower on Xbox Series X. You'd imagine they'd be running more things through asynchronous compute there to kind of make it back. But things are not all equal, to say the least. How much time invested in one machine versus another is very much so dependent upon a lot of projects. So in this case, there are inherent things an engine can do which could make a game faster or slower, regardless of the whole tools thing, which is what John just talked about. And we're kind of going back to tools there because the shader compiler thing is an issue on the Xbox side. And also the fact that you're not addressing the hardware to the same low level as you are on the Xbox side. I'm trying to think there's only kind of
what about
one
ray
more
tracing, Alex? Because wasn't that an issue back in the day? For example, Callisto Protocol having quality shadows.
Well, you know, Callisto, I mean, there's a lot of things. Well, we saw that they improved it a lot after launch. I do think a part of the story that we see on PC all the time is sometimes Xbox is not getting a lot of time in development for things. You know, even after they fixed it, though, it was lower resolution.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't fully fixed, right?
And you know, one of the things that a double-edged sword with Xbox Series X is that, yeah, you can just run DX12 code on it and just straight up port DXR from PC, but that wouldn't give you great advantages that the Xbox hardware can offer you. Like you can, as we've seen in games like Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, which has, I think, a good advantage on Xbox Series X versus PS5, if I'm recalling Tom's review correctly, they actually take advantage of a whole bunch of low-level functions of both of the consoles to make it run as well as it does and look as good as it does. And if you don't use those and you just ran straight DXR on an Xbox Series X, oh yeah, you would definitely lose a lot of performance otherwise that you would be getting back on the PS5 side of things, because you'd have offline BVH. You could be doing like custom traversal. You could do a custom BVH entirely, like they did in Frontiers of Pandora.
Okay,
if you
interesting.
were doing those things on consoles, it would probably be slower. So if you are having a much more portable game to Xbox Series X because you want to just run the DX12 code there, so you don't want to have to do like a super dedicated port, just one that's a little bit more hands off, then it would probably run slower than a really nicely specifically coded PS5 game.
Okay, fair enough. Hopefully we got some clarity on that one finally.
I would still say though that despite any of those differences, the two hardware it's the closest we've ever seen in consoles.
Yeah,
by far.
In terms of just like, I think most multi-platform games are equally good on both platforms, and the differences are usually more academic or just minor things outside of a few cases.
Yeah,
like the Callisto example.
It was interesting to see the reaction to Tom's Elden Ring video. I mean, the PlayStation.
Alright, so that's pretty much enough of that. So pretty much what I have gathered here is that when it comes to shader compilance, the PlayStation 5 is better. Developers prefer dealing with the PS5 shader compilance instead of Xboxes. And also, it seems like that the preferred console for developers is pretty much the PlayStation 5. But when it comes to Unreal Engine 5 stuff, that's where the Xbox Series X shines. That's the stuff that I have noticed from, reacting and watching that Digital Foundry video. So it makes me wonder about the PS5 Pro. Will it be, pretty much the best place to play, not only the games that we have now and also, future games that is running, Unreal Engine 5 because of the PSSR, the PlayStation, upscaler that's supposed to be on the PS5 Pro. Will it be that huge of a leap to where, playing the Xbox version, the Series X version would just look like, nasty. I don't want to play that version. Give me the PS5 Pro version. Or will it be, a smaller difference when it comes to the Series X versus PS5 Pro? I want to know your guys' thoughts on that. Let me know in the comment section below of this YouTube video. This is Lavon Cason signing out in peace, and thanks for watching.